Now, with great pleasure, we welcome back to the show Senate Majority Leader, Mr. John Thune from the great state of South Dakota. Senator Thune, you're a prince for doing this. We know you're a very busy chap. Can I just get your quick take? I mean, my riff is optimistic. The markets are optimistic. But, I mean, I think the move in the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, stopping oil and money going to Iran is a brilliant ploy, sir. What do you make of it?
I agree. I think your riff was spot on, Larry.
No, thank you.
The president has, I think it's perfectly appropriate for him to not allow Iran's extortion of an international waterway. And by imposing these, making it difficult for them to get to, into and out of Iranian ports is frankly, it's a necessary and a brilliant move, because it's the last resort the Iranians have. They have been destroyed. They've been crushed militarily by the U.S. operation there, and so now they're resorting to the last thing that they have available to them to try and get leverage. And I hope, if nothing else, this gets them to the table and forces them to end their nuclear program, which is really, frankly, what a lot of this was all about in the first place.
It just seems to me, and look, I have less information than you. There's a lot that I don't know. But I think we're very close to ending the war. I don't know exactly when, Senator, but I think we're very close. And I think this closes an important loophole, the economic and financial pressure point, which is something Iran probably didn't expect, because they didn't know how tough, they underestimate how tough the president is. But I think this is going to be a killer. No oil means no money. And no money means nothing, nada. Okay, not to finance anything. The economy is going to collapse. People are going to rise up in the streets. The currency is worthless, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree. I think and it's their economic lifeline. And so when they don't have energy, they don't have any, that's how they fund everything in Iran. And plus you've got all these people they do business with, like China, who are incredibly dependent upon the oil that they get coming through the strait. So this has so many implications for Iran. All of which I think, again, should drive them to the table, Larry. And I think they probably felt like this was one last leverage point that they could use to try and weaken the U.S. resolve. But the president has met them, and obviously they are now in a position where if they don't get back to the table here pretty soon, they're going to be feeling a lot of hurt. They've already felt that in their military and all their production facilities for their drones and ballistic missiles and everything else, their Navy, which has been completely destroyed. But now we're talking about their economy, and that has something that has real implications for the Iranian people, and hopefully the pressure will start to build on their leadership to make a deal.
So, Senator Thune, tomorrow's tax day, as you well know, and you're talking about a very skinny anorexic, I love that, anorexic, very skinny anorexic reconciliation bill, I guess, that would just include for DHS and for ICE and for the Customs Bureau and so forth and so on. I want to ask you, I say, okay, I understand that, but you've got a military supplemental of a couple of $100 billion. You could have some more tax cuts paid for by waste, fraud, and abuse, which is rampant. J.D. Vance going after that. Probably if you went to the essentials, there's a voter ID, real ID citizenship bill that will require funding. Maybe the parliamentarian would see your way toward that. In other words, I never really liked anorexic, Senator. I kind of like, kind of larger than life, more gravitas, more weight, kind of like you, Mr. Thune. You're not an anorexic kind of leader.
Yes, you do, Larry. And where have I ever heard that before out of you? Go big, go bold, and
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And be robust. I am with you, and this is narrow only because the Democrats forced us into this position because they refused to fund ICE and CBP. We've got to take care of that with Republican votes, ensure that well into the future that those agencies are funded. The Democrats have adopted the open borders, defund law enforcement position. That's the position that politically they seem to be comfortable with. So we've got to take care of that. But we also have another vehicle available to us. We also have not only the FY26, but FY27. If we want to do a budget resolution and do a more comprehensive approach and use reconciliation in the way that you described, there will be an opportunity to do that.
This year.
Obviously, it depends.
This year, sir?
Obviously,
it depends on. Big, beautiful,
big and beautiful.
Big, beautiful 2.0 bill. Really?
It depends.
Yes.
It depends on getting the votes.
You're
got
open
50
to
in the
it.
Senate, and
You're
218.
open
Yeah,
to it.
absolutely.
All
I mean,
right.
I'm for doing more, not less. I think you know that.
Well, I do know that, and you're not an anorexic kind of guy, as I said before. And I think, tomorrow's tax day, and of course, I think the GOP, has a lot to brag about on tax cuts and so forth. And basically, the economy is holding up very well despite the war. But I think, you need more selling. I mean, Steve Forbes wants middle-class tax cuts. Why shouldn't we index inflation index capital gains? You've got hundreds of billions of waste, fraud, and abuse that you could use as offsets. The War Department needs a supplemental. You know it better than I do. I think you can get voting ID in there too, sir. So I'm hustling for 2.0. You're giving me a green light to hustle for 2.0, Mr. Leader.
Well, Larry, I know you're going to hustle irrespective of what I say. But I will say, to your point, I mean, I think there could be, and should be, frankly, again, it's all dependent upon the votes, and that's the realistic side of this that I have to deal with, is how do we get 50 in the Senate and 218 in the House? But, if you look at what has happened, and we haven't done as probably good a job of marketing this as we should, but, people this year who are filing tax returns, the average tax return this year is going to be 24% higher than it was during the Biden administration. And if you're a filer who claims a deduction for tips or overtime, or a senior who's getting the benefit now of this increased deduction for Social Security, those returns are up 50%. So there's a great story to be told here about how we're putting more money in the pockets of the American people so that they can spend it their way, and that gets the economic growth you're talking about. Certainty on the business side, and some of the the things we made permanent there. But yeah, I mean, anything you can do to get the economy growing at a faster rate creates better paying jobs, higher wages, and that's ultimately what the goal and the aspiration here ought to be. So we'll see what the traffic will bear, as we say, going forward. But we got to take care of this immediate issue, and that is the one the Democrats handed us because they refused to appropriate for our law enforcement agencies.
Well, I think the Democrats are anorexic. I mean, I think that's one of their problems. They have other problems, but that's one of the problems. And I'm sympathetic to what you're saying. But since you've given me this fabulous green light to push for a 2.0 big, beautiful bill, I mean, I think gives you a lot to brag about going into the midterms. The oil prices will come down, no question about it, but they may take a little longer. The president has said that himself. The refunds are kind of offsetting it early in the year. But I think, you need new material. I think you need new selling points, and I think it'll be terrific. The voter ID thing, right? That's terribly important and so popular.
Right. Well, it is, and we of course forced the Democrats to vote a couple of weeks ago on the narrow issue of just having to use a voter ID, a photo ID, to vote. We didn't get any Democrat votes for that, despite the fact that many of them have been out there openly advocating for voter ID. Oh yeah, we're for this. We think it's great. Our states do this, and not a single one of them came forward and voted for it. So if we're going to get that, it's probably going to be with Republican-only votes. And if there's a way in which we can structure it so that it passes the procedural hurdles we have to deal with here in the Senate and do it in a reconciliation bill, I'm certainly open to that. We had some conversations about that. We will have more, I'm sure, in the future. But to the degree that we can find, 50 votes in the Senate and 218 in the House for some of the things that you talked about, or a more ambitious, if you will, reconciliation proposal, certainly we're open to that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Senator Thune, very, very much. We have Speaker Johnson on tomorrow. I'm going to make the same pitch to him. It's like a year ago. But I appreciate your openness, really, and thank you for coming on the show. I know you're very busy.
Great to be with you.
All right,
always good to be with you. Thanks, Larry.
You bet. Take care.